What school did you go to? Because I know in our email you talked about two different schools. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So I decided to go to public school, and there's two different
Mm-hmm.
systems. There's the CUNY, which is the city universities of
Yeah.
New York, and then there's the SUNYs, which are the state universities of New York. I live in New York City, so I stayed in the city system, and I went to York. First, I went to City Tech because I was going to study dentistry. But after a year, I realized that wasn't really for me. So then I transferred to a school that was closer to where I live and also offered liberal arts and not more of the tech majors.
Just out of curiosity, why did you stray away from dentistry? It's a high-paying job. Lots of people would like it, right?
I did not want to be a dentist. I was pushed by my parents because I graduated after the economic recession, and they were pushing me towards making money and surviving. But at the end of and I tried it, but at the end of the day, it was just not for me. I would have been miserable.
You ended up doing that transfer process. How was the transfer process, and did you bring any credits with you?
Yes, since it's all in the same system, they transfer credits easily. If I had wanted to go to another university, it would have been probably more difficult. But since it was my first year, I was able to save a lot of credits and transfer them.
Then you transferred into York. And what was your first day at York like?
Campus is very different. I went to City Tech in Brooklyn, which was more of a just city, and it's still very industrial. And then York was more of a suburban area. So the campus just looked different. There's grass everywhere. And it looked different, and the students were different too. A lot of the students that go to York were older.
What do you think that is? Why are more of those students older going to York?
I think that the majors they offer are more appealing. A lot of my classmates were there for their second majors, or they just wanted to go back to school because they finally had a chance. A lot of the classes are offered at night, so they were able to work during the day and then study at night. It was just easier.
Did you get to engage with any of those non-traditional students, we might say?
Yeah, I really wish that there had been more people close to my age, but then you're working on a project with someone who's 30, 40 years older than you, and then you just become friends.
Did you have any of those kind of like group projects where you really got a completely different perspective from maybe your group mates?
Yes, a lot of the times I was the youngest person in the class, so I would just have to work with people that were older than I, and just it was totally different because they had just come out of work and they're going back to school and they have kids and they're bringing a whole different perspective into my world, and we had to work together, and it was great.
Bring any interesting insights? So like, for example, George Orwell's 1984, we read that in high school. I don't know if you read it in English class, but obviously these older people would have been teenagers during the year 1984. Bring anything to the project that you can distinctly remember, any kind of insights, anything exciting that you were like,
I have two stories.
That I would have never thought.
Okay, so our professor was from the Caribbean, and she brought literature from the Caribbean to class. And we also had students from the Caribbean in that class. I'm not from the Caribbean, so they brought their insight and they would, talk about that. And so there I learned new things about, their culture. And in general, a lot of the students that go to York are from the Caribbean. And the second one is, for my last class, I had to take a reconstruction of the South class, where we read literature about after the Civil War, which is something a lot of us don't know about, and a lot of people have different opinions on. But when you're taking that class with someone who's older, they do bring a different perspective about slavery and what it was like for the South compared to someone who lived in the North their whole life. So there was that different way of seeing history. Yeah.
So let's put that to the side for now. But the Caribbean, I think that's really interesting. And for myself, I've heard different kind of stereotypes that maybe they practice voodoo, or again, like Jamaica is a lot of Bob Marley, 420, marijuana. How was it delving into Caribbean literature? Was it a culture shock for you?
Because then you're, like you said, you're reading about voodoo and vampires. And I remember I read a book called Sycophant, and that was a word that I'd never heard before. And so, yeah, you're learning about different cultures, different religious beliefs, different foods. You're reading accents in different dialects. And you're also bringing film and the whole language and accents into it as well when you study linguistics.
Now, if I remember correctly, you said that your family originally comes from Colombia, correct? South America. So you do speak Spanish. And is it the same Spanish as in the Caribbeans?
It's different, but most of what so our professor, I believe, was from Aruba, or I don't remember where she was from, but I think she had Dutch influence. And so it was mostly, I forgot what islands, but it was different. It wasn't Spanish.
Okay, so again, you couldn't even bring some of your previous experiences into this and kind of stitch it together. It was just completely new to you.
And I had classmates. I had one classmate in particular who was from the Caribbean, but when she spoke, she had a English, like a British accent. So that class, she felt at home in that class because a lot of the literature we read, what she was familiar with.